Many people indeed believe that the whole industry is more or less the same, that it's a monolithic block, but in real fact, different tobacco companies are different. And the same as in other industries, not every oil company is the same, not every bank is the same, so different tobacco companies are different. And I think Philip Morris International is really unique. What is unique about us is that if you think about sustainability, many people believe sustainability is just about the environment. And I think you really need to look at where do you as a company have the biggest impact on society. And this is, in our view, basically the impact that our products have on the consumers. And so if you don't focus on that first and foremost, I don't think really as a tobacco company you have a right to speak about sustainability. So for that reason, for a long time we didn't speak about it a lot, but we have been working in many areas before. But we always felt that, first we need to focus on solving the problem of the product, have a better product as an alternative to cigarettes. And once we have a clear plan to replace cigarettes with other things, that's the moment when we start talking about sustainability. So that's what we set out to do since 2016. We published business transformation metrics, which not only show, let's say, that we are replacing the product, but how are we reallocating the resources to make it happen. And I think that really makes us unique and different from other tobacco companies. There is an immediate connection between our business transformation and sustainability. Or say it differently, without our business transformation, we could never be sustainable as a tobacco company, I think. And our transformation creates new sustainability challenges at the same time. So the two topics, transformation and sustainability, are very much connected. Now, I don't want people to believe that we haven't done anything on sustainability in the distant past. I think in the past and still today, we are leaders in certain specific fields. For example, when it comes to environment, we have for many years worked on reducing our CO2 emissions and have been recognized as such by CDP. 5 years in a row we had the A list. They are the only tobacco company that achieved this, and we are quite advanced in that field. Another field where we are very advanced is in working on preventing child labor in tobacco growing. But until recently, I would say we haven't been talking about that too much, because we thought, okay, unless we focus and address the most important challenge in our industry, which is the product and the impact on our consumers, we shouldn't talk about the rest. So once we have set out to do that, we started communicating with a sustainability report. We today launch our fourth version of that, and I encourage everybody to have a look at it. And in there you can see that our sustainability strategy has 4 components. First one is about business transformation, i.e. replacing cigarettes with better alternatives. Second component is about operational excellence. This is making sure that the way we operate, the how, is making sense. And I think the most important topic there is how we commercialize our products, preventing our products coming into the hands of youth or people who don't smoke. So how do we make sure that our products end up with the intended audience, which is adult smokers? Third component has to do with our social sustainability agenda. That is primarily about our supply chain and how we make sure that in our supply chain, i.e. tobacco growing and electronics manufacturing, people are treated well, and we are making sure people have a decent income, and also there are good working practices. Last but not least, it's the environment, what everybody thinks about with sustainability. And let's face it, I mean, the number one challenge for the planet is climate change. And every company in the world, including our company, has to focus on what we can do to achieve the Paris climate goals. So that's an important aspect for us as well. But in addition to that, I think it's about conserving water, it's about preventing deforestation, and last but not least, litter and post-consumer waste. As we are transforming our business, obviously there are new sustainability challenges. Let me come to an obvious one. Before we were only selling cigarettes. Today we sell heat sticks, but we also sell electronic devices, IQOS. And when you sell electronics, you need to think about recycling the electronics and taking the used electronics after a couple of years back from the consumer. So this is a new challenge, something we didn't know much about, but it's something where we have been focusing a lot over the last year. And actually we have now 2 recycling centers in the world where used IQOS devices are taken back from consumers and the materials are being recycled. So this is a new challenge that we had to address and where we had to learn a lot. And it's not easy. We learn from the best-in-class electronics companies how that is done. Let me give you another example of a new challenge. Cigarette manufacturing is not a very water-intensive process. approximately 5 liters of water is used to manufacture 1,000 cigarettes. So that's not very water intensive, but manufacturing heat sticks is using far more water, 4 to 5 times more. And we realized that, of course, early on, and that meant that we had to look at how can we improve processes in the factory to limit this increase in water use as much as possible. Let me give you a last example, and that is to some extent also an opportunity, I would say. It is a large opportunity. The new products use less tobacco compared to cigarettes. And many people initially would think, well, what will the farmers think about that? But we need to look at it as an opportunity for the world as well. If the new products use less tobacco, there will be land available to grow other crops. And we think we have a role to play to help farmers divert to these other crops, move to other crops that can be, food crops or other crops. And this is where we play a very active role as well, especially I would say in developing countries in Africa. Our ambition is not about making PMI smoke-free or rich countries smoke-free. It's about making the whole world smoke-free. And therefore, us stopping to sell cigarettes doesn't really solve the problem. And let me give you a small analogy I thought of the other day, which maybe explains it as well. I met an energy company which was producing electricity with different sources. And they became green all overnight by selling their coal plants to somebody else. So that company became green, but it doesn't solve the problem for the planet because the coal plants are still there, owned by somebody else. And there's another energy company I met, and they said, look, what we need to do is we need to keep this as one company and eventually phase out and stop using the coal plants. And this is exactly the same vision we have. It's not about us stopping to sell cigarettes or divesting our cigarette business. It is shifting resources so that in the end, no more cigarettes are sold. Not just by PMI, not just in Switzerland, not just in the rich countries, globally, no more cigarettes. And how fast that can be done depends on many factors, including what we do, including what our competitors do, what governments do, what investors do. And so it depends on a lot of factors, but we want to get there as fast as possible. To give you an idea of the speed at which we can move, the WHO has in mind that over the next, let's say, 10 years, by 2025, smoking should be reduced by 30%. To put it in the context of our consumers, Philip Morris International has 150 million consumers. If we project the WHO targets, it would mean 15 million consumers less smoking our cigarettes. We want to work in concert with what the WHO is doing, i.e. not go against what they want, but go even faster than what they want. So in addition to the 15 million that WHO aims to stop smoking, we want to have an additional 40 million people who switch from cigarettes to IQOS and other smoke-free products. If we achieve doing that, it goes 3 times faster than the WHO has in mind. Today, 1.1 billion people on the planet smoke, 22% of adults. And the WHO projects that although the percentage of people that smoke declines, population is growing. And as a result, there will still be 1.1 billion people smoking by 2025. Obviously, the WHO and also PMI believe that we should reduce the number of smokers. And the WHO has in mind to reduce, the target for them is to reduce smoking by 30% by 2025. If you translate those numbers to our number of consumers, we have 150 million people who buy our cigarettes or smoke-free products on a daily basis. And translating the WHO target to our consumer base, that would be 15 million less consumers of PMI cigarettes by 2025. We want to go much faster than that. Our ambition is to, in addition to those 15 million people, to have another 40 million people at least switching to smoke-free products. If we achieve doing that, we are accelerating the pace of the decline of smoking compared to WHO targets by 3 times. Well, let me be very clear. We don't want teenagers to smoke or use any nicotine product. Smoking is extremely harmful. Smoke-free products are not harmless and they are addictive. So we really don't want teenagers to use any of our products. What we are doing to make sure that this doesn't happen is 3 different things. One, we are looking at product development and make sure that we don't use flavors or other aspects of the product that could be attractive to youth. Secondly, we have very strong marketing and sales practices in place, so to make sure that we don't target youth in our marketing and sales activities. And last but not least, we measure what the results are of our actions. So we have post-market surveillance in the markets where we sell IQOS, and we measure who is using our product. And from that we know that our products are using the intended audience, which is adult smokers. And not just our own measurements show that, but it's also studies, independent studies which are published in Japan and Switzerland, which are indeed showing that our products are not used by youth. Our vision of a smoke-free future includes all smokers on the planet, including those in lower income countries. So what we need to make sure is that our products are not just reaching the smokers in high income countries like Japan or Europe, but also that they are affordable for people in lower income countries. We are not there yet, let's be honest. IQOS is not a cheap product, so we realize that we have work to do. We have a portfolio of products, and also if you look at IQOS, we have different business models in mind where instead of buying the product, you can also lend the product for a period of time or maybe pay the product over a couple of months. So what we try to do is with product development, develop lower cost alternatives, and also develop different business models which allow all smokers on the planet to change basically. As you can see from this year's report, we have a quite clear strategy and we have identified what are the most important topics. This year, what we want to make sure is, do we have in each of these tier 1 topics the best programs we can have? Because honestly, we want to be a sustainability leader. And so we are going to review each of these most important topics and see, is what we have in place the best that we can have? And I think in some of the areas we are already best in class. I look at greenhouse gas emissions, for example, where we are on the CDP A list. But there are other areas where perhaps more can be done and should be done. So this year we want to set some really ambitious targets for the year 2025 and communicate those as soon, well, next year basically. So that's one big project, I would say. And then there are specific areas where we need to make progress. One has to do with a human rights impact assessment. We did one last year in 2018. You could read about that in the report. And we want to do a next one this year in another country in the world, a major market. And we also want to make sure that, let's say, we talked about responsible commercialization. How do we make sure that our products end up with the right audience, with adult smokers? We want to do a deep dive and review all the practices we have in place. We think we have a very good marketing code, but we want to make sure that we are learning from what others have learned in that area. And we want to publish not only what we do, but also the results of our findings by the end of 2019. So these are some of the key areas that are on the horizon for this year.